Welcome to Brain Vision.
Here we have a flat or unbanked curve on a highway, has a radius of 170 meters. A car goes around the curve at 25 meters per second, and we want to figure out what friction force needs to be acting to keep the car from sliding. So in the radial direction here, we have the friction force acting, and then we have the mass times the centrifugal acceleration. Since we know the velocity, we can say that that's v squared over r. Now, if we did a free body diagram in the looking at this way, we'd have the weight, the normal force, and the friction force. So that just tells us that the normal force is the weight, and the maximum friction force is mu s times the weight, or the normal force. So that means the maximum friction force is mu s times mg. So this is the maximum friction force. So that will give us the maximum velocity. That will give us the maximum velocity. Okay, so this will give us the minimum mu s to keep this thing from sliding. So solving for mu s, we can see that the mass of the car drops out, and we get v squared over rg. Plugging in our values, we get 0.375, which is a very reasonable looking coefficient of static friction that would be needed to keep this car from sliding. Now they say, okay, let's say that the coefficient of friction is 1/3 of this amount. And they ask us, how fast can the car be going to not slide? So same problem basically, but now we have a new friction force, which is caused by a new coefficient of friction, and we have a new velocity. So we can solve for that velocity here, and that's just the square root of the friction force times r times g. Again, the mass drops out. Plugging in our values, we get 0.4 meters per second. So if we have a third of the coefficient of friction, then we have to be going quite a bit slower to keep from slipping, and that would be would be expected. You'd expect this value to be less than this value if the amount of friction force drops, and a third of this would be a very low friction force. That would be a very, very slippery road.